All right. Let me ask you something. What if the most dangerous man in Europe didn't actually want to conquer Rome? And you know what? What if that was the most terrifying part? What if his goal wasn't to rule the empire, but to prove that empires only exist because he allows them to? Think about that for a second. By the middle of the 5th century, Rome is still standing, on paper at least. It has emperors, it has laws, it has prayers whispered in churches every night. But confidence, yeah, that's gone. Fear has found a new owner. Across villages, forts, and royal courts, the same question keeps coming up. It's whispered like a curse. Where is Attila? He doesn't send declarations of war. No long speeches, no explanations. He rides. And wherever his riders appear, things speed up. History speeds up. Like when a storm suddenly changes direction, and everyone checks the sky at once. Gold is paid, hostages are handed over, cities surrender before anyone even knocks on the gate, because everyone understands the same brutal rule. If Attila reaches you, the argument is already over. But then, in the year 451, that certainty cracks for the first time. Not because of one army, not because of one empire, but because of a desperate alliance that honestly shouldn't even exist. Romans fighting beside Goths, former enemies sharing a battle line, people who trust each other about as much as you trust a stranger with your wallet. All of them standing together on an open plain in Gaul, a place history will remember as the Catalaunian Plains.
I am Attila. They think I ride for their land? Fools. Land burns, cities fall, and grow back like weeds. That is nothing. I ride for certainty. I tear down the lie that walls protect you. I tear down the lie that treaties matter. I tear down the lie that tomorrow is guaranteed. Spit on their laws. Spit on their gold. Fear moves faster than any army. And fear rides with me. Today, they gather to stop me? Good. Let them stand. Let them sweat. Let them pray. Because before this day ends, the world will remember what it feels like to be hunted.
And here's the thing. This isn't the fall of Rome. Not yet. This is the moment Europe has to answer a much harder question. Do we still believe in ourselves? Because if Attila breaks this line, there won't be another one to form. Do you want to know how close Europe came to being ruled by fear instead of law? Do you want to know what happens when the most terrifying man alive finally meets an army that refuses to run? And do you want to know why this battle is remembered? Not for who won, but for what almost happened? Welcome to the podcast. Battles that shaped Europe.
We shall never surrender!
The Battle of the Catalaunian Plains, 451 CE. Part 1. The World Before the Battle. Alright, picture this. If a Roman from the age of Augustus suddenly woke up in the year 451, he wouldn't panic because Rome had fallen. He'd panic because it felt wrong. Rome is still there, still has emperors, still has laws, still has priests telling people everything will be fine. But you know what? It no longer feels eternal. And for Romans, that feeling is everything. Since the sack of the city in 410, power hasn't collapsed. It's withdrawn. Emperors still rule, sure, but they rule from Ravenna, a city hidden among marshes in what we now call northern Italy. Not because it's beautiful, because it's hard to reach. That alone tells you the whole story. The empire survives, but now it survives the way someone does when they start locking doors instead of inviting guests in. And the clearest sign that something is breaking? It doesn't begin in Italy. It begins on the road. The Vandals aren't chasing glory. They're not dreaming of marble statues or Senate titles. They're moving. Families, wagons, entire communities. From the Rhine frontier, through Gaul, down into Hispania, what we'd call Spain today. Always pushed forward. Always looking for somewhere that doesn't push back. And when Roman authority weakens there, they don't stop. They look south. Across a narrow strip of sea most of us barely notice on a map. In 429, under Gaiseric, the Vandals cross into North Africa. And this part really matters, not as raiders, but as settlers. Men, women, children. This isn't a hit and run, it's relocation. Roman Africa is rich, divided, lightly defended, and it folds faster than anyone expects.
That is the mistake empires make. They guard borders and count walls, and forget the roads where power actually moves. I learned long ago, whoever controls movement decides who lives in peace and who does not.
10 years later, in 439, the Vandals take Carthage. Think about that for a moment. Carthage, near modern Tunis, falls without a legendary last stand. No epic duel, no heroic final charge. Just speed, timing, Roman hesitation. And when Carthage falls, Rome's lifeline snaps. Africa isn't just another province. It feeds Rome, pays Rome's soldiers, keeps the entire system alive. Lose Africa, and suddenly the numbers don't work. About 60,000 soldiers vanish from the payroll. Not killed, unpaid. And in this world, unpaid soldiers are as good as gone. From this moment on, Western Rome can't rebuild its own army at scale. It has to borrow strength. Or buy it.
An empire that cannot pay its soldiers does not command loyalty. Listen to me. It survives on borrowed patience, and patience always ends.
So Rome adapts. Not with reconquest, with compromise. Peoples once dismissed as barbarians are settled inside the empire. The Visigoths in Aquitaine, roughly southern France. The Burgundians in Sapordia, the upper Rhone valley guarding Alpine passes. The Franks along the northern rivers, lands that will one day be France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. They're called foederati, allies. But let's be honest, they rule themselves. Rome doesn't command them anymore, it negotiates. Meanwhile, to the east, another force is reshaping Europe. The Huns. Once scattered riders of the steppe, now unified under a single will. They settle in Pannonia, centered on modern Hungary, close enough to threaten both Roman empires. They don't occupy cities, they squeeze. Gold flows east every year, not tribute for peace, payment to delay destruction.
Gold is cheaper than walls, yes, but gold also teaches weakness. Pay long enough, and fear changes sides. When payment stops, so does mercy.
Inside the Western Empire, power shifts again. Emperors still wear purple, but real authority now sits with generals. With the Magister Militum, the master of soldiers. In Gaul, society begins to tear. Peasants, crushed by taxes and left unprotected, walk away. Some form rebel bands, others simply disappear. And the Roman army? Roman in name only. By 451, it's mostly Germanic and Hunnic warriors in Roman pay. Rome spent years paying the Huns to keep other threats away, and now those same riders are turning west.
They fed the fire and trusted the wind. Fire does not care who lit it. It only cares what it reaches next.
And yet, Gaul doesn't collapse. Not completely. A Roman elite survives. Landowners, bishops, officials. They cling to Roman law and education while learning how to live beside new rulers. This isn't the end of civilization. It's civilization under pressure, adapting, and standing at the center of this unstable world, 3 men, linked by old deals, pulled toward one unavoidable collision. First, Flavius Aetius, Rome's strongest man in the West. As a boy, he lived among the Huns as a hostage. He learned how they think, how they fight, how they respect strength. He doesn't dream of restoring Rome. He dreams of balance. Hold Gaul together long enough for Rome to keep breathing.
Aetius understands pressure. Good. He knows how weight breaks men and states alike. That is why he prepares, and why he fears what is coming.
Then there is Attila, king of the Huns. He doesn't want Roman titles. He doesn't want Roman cities. He wants obedience. When the Eastern Empire stops paying, he looks west, toward a land divided by compromise and rich enough to reward conquest.
I do not chase ruins, no. I chase certainty. Because certainty ends arguments. When I decide a fate, it stays decided.
And finally, Theodoric I, king of the Visigoths, ruler of Aquitaine. He's fought Rome for years to secure a home for his people, but he understands one simple truth. If the Huns win, there is no Visigothic future at all. The spark that lights everything? Almost ridiculous. A ring. Justa Grata Honoria, sister of the Western Emperor, sends her signet ring to Attila, begging to escape an unwanted marriage. Attila accepts it as a proposal and demands half the Western Empire as a dowry. Rome says no. At the same time, a Frankish succession dispute tears the north apart. One claimant turns to Aetius, the other turns to Attila. Diplomacy collapses. But honestly, the truth is simpler. The East won't pay anymore. The West looks weak. So Attila rides.
They had warnings, many. They had time, too much. They chose delay. And now, delay has chosen them. Now, they fight to survive.
This is the world before the battle. An empire hollowed out, kingdoms growing inside its borders, and one warrior riding west to test whether Europe will hold. Part 2. The Armies Gather. By the time both sides reach the plains, nobody is pretending anymore. This isn't a raid. This isn't a show of force. And no one is riding home after a few threatening gestures. This will be decided in one place, on one day, by everyone who still believes violence can settle the future. And you know what? They're probably right. Historians still argue over the numbers. They always do. But strip away the exaggeration, the pride, the heroic inflation, and the reality is still staggering. Somewhere between 30 and 50,000 men stand on each side. That's not counting families waiting behind them, not counting cities that will burn if one line breaks. Just the men who will decide the fate of Gaul. Attila arrives first, and his army doesn't look like a nation. It looks like a moving world. At the core ride the Huns, elite horse archers raised in the saddle, shooting accurately at full gallop, moving faster than most armies can even react. Around them march their subject peoples, Ostrogoths, Gepids, Rugians, different languages, different gods, held together by one thing: momentum.
They come because I keep them moving. Yes! Men do not follow flags or soft promises. They follow victory, and I give them no time to doubt it. As long as we advance, as long as hooves keep pounding forward, they believe the world still belongs to them.
Across the plain, another force assembles. And this one isn't built on tradition. It isn't built on identity. It's built on a decision. Flavius Aetius has gathered anyone willing to stand. Roman regulars, Roman in name, Germanic in blood. The Visigoths under Theodoric, bringing an entire kingdom ready to fight for its home. Franks from the north, Armoricans from the Atlantic coast, and right in the center, the Alans. Not because they're trusted, because they're watched. This isn't unity, it's necessity.
Enemies standing shoulder to shoulder call it unity. I call it fear, learning how to cooperate. They do not trust each other. They only trust one thing: that I am worse.
The real difference between these armies isn't just who they are, it's how they fight. The Huns fight with movement. Their composite bows, small, curved, deadly, outrange most Roman weapons. They swarm, they strike, they pull back before you can answer. They don't look for a line to break, they look for fatigue. And when distance collapses, knives, lassos dragging men from horses, confusion instead of formation. The Roman Visigothic army fights the opposite way. They endure. Infantry locks shields, cavalry waits, patient, controlled. The old Roman plate armor is gone, replaced by chainmail and scale, flexible, imperfect, practical. But their real strength is shock, especially the Visigothic cavalry. Armored riders charging as a wall of iron and muscle, hitting not like a blade, but like a hammer.
Speed cuts flesh. Yes! Weight breaks bone! I do not need to destroy them all. I only need to break their will first. After that, the killing takes care of itself.
As the armies settle into position, their morale couldn't be more different. Among the Huns, something unusual spreads: doubt. Attila's shamans read the signs, the entrails of sacrificed cattle, and they don't like what they see. They predict disaster. Not total defeat, but the fall of a great enemy leader. Attila listens, and for the first time, he pauses.
Signs do not frighten me. No. They remind me to choose the ground, the hour, and the cost. A leader who ignores warnings does not die bravely. He dies stupidly.
So Attila delays. The battle won't begin at dawn. It will begin late, around 3 in the afternoon, and that matters. If things go wrong, darkness comes quickly. Darkness hides retreat. Across the field, the Allies feel something else entirely. There is no delay for them, no second chance. If they lose here, Gaul burns. For the Visigoths especially, this isn't strategy, it's survival. Their homes are behind them, their families are behind them. There is nowhere else to go. Even the land seems to understand what's about to happen. The battlefield, the Campus Moriacus near today's Chalon, is wide, open, and unforgiving. Flat plains, and one small rise. A low ridge. Nothing dramatic, nothing beautiful, but everything. Both commanders see it instantly. Whoever holds that ground controls the battle. Aetius moves first. His men reach the ridge just as the Huns begin to climb it. Attila is forced to fight uphill.
High ground does not win battles. Listen! Men willing to die on it do. If they want the hill, I will give it meaning.
The heat is brutal. Late June sun, thousands of horses, dust rising so thick men lose sight of banners, units, even commanders. Orders vanish, confusion spreads. This won't be a clean battle. It will be a collision. And somewhere in that dust, someone important will fall. The armies are in place. The ridge is held. The sun begins its slow descent. What happens next won't just decide who wins the field. It will decide whether fear or cooperation shapes Europe's future. Part 3. Into the Fray. And then it starts. Not with a speech. Not with trumpets or destiny calling. Just movement. And you know what? That's how the deadliest battles usually begin. The Huns go first. They always do. From Attila's side of the field, riders spill forward. Not a charge. A rhythm. Horses fan out like water poured onto stone. Bows bend together. Arrows rise, then fall like a black storm front rolling in. The Roman line tightens. Shields lift. Men brace as iron points punch into wood, leather, flesh, and earth. You don't hear orders anymore. You hear impact.
Spread them wide, now! Do not close yet! Let the arrows speak first. When they start to move, remember who taught them fear.
This is the Hunnic way of war. They don't smash into you. They wear you down. Close enough to kill, far enough to escape. They hit flanks, gaps, nerves. Every retreat is a lie. Every pause is bait. They want someone to break ranks. They want someone to chase.
Pull back. Yes, now! Turn! Make them chase shadows. Make them doubt what they see. An army that moves without orders is already halfway dead.
And somehow, incredibly, the line holds. For now, Roman and Visigothic infantry lock shields, absorbing the storm. But everyone knows this can't last. Not forever. Aetius knows it. Theodoric knows it. And eventually, the signal runs down the line. Forward. The Visigothic cavalry surges. This isn't harassment. This is commitment. Armored riders thunder across the plain, lances low, shields tight. They hit Attila's vassals, Ostrogoths, Gepids, like a falling wall. Steel rings. Men disappear under hooves. Dust climbs so high the horizon vanishes. You can't tell where one unit ends and another begins.
Hold the center. Steady. Give ground. Slowly. Let their weight exhaust them. When they slow, cut the edges. Bleed them out.
In the center, everything goes wrong at once. The Alans, placed there because they're watched, not trusted, are struck from both sides. Huns press from the front, Goths push from behind. The line bends, almost breaks. Aetius rides hard along the front, shouting orders swallowed by dust and noise. Banners vanish, units lose commanders. This is no longer one battle. It's dozens.
Now you see it. Too many fights, too many leaders. Confusion kills faster than arrows ever could.
On the Visigothic wing, King Theodoric rides forward. Old, scarred, unwilling to watch from behind. He pushes too far. And in the crush, Horses screaming, shields colliding, dust blinding. He's thrown from his mount. And then, he's gone, lost beneath bodies and iron. The Visigoths don't know it yet, but their king is dead.
The signs were there, always. When a leader falls, the field listens. Now watch what rage does when command disappears.
The truth spreads slowly, then all at once. The Visigoths learn what's happened, and instead of breaking, they explode. This isn't survival anymore. It's vengeance. They surge forward, slamming into Attila's allies, driving them back toward the center. The balance shifts.
Pull back the corps, now! Form the wagons! Together, not scattered! We hold, not the field, but ourselves!
As evening approaches, Attila withdraws his heartland troops. Not in panic, in calculation. Wagons are dragged into a tight ring. Wood, iron, bodies. A fortress built in minutes. From behind it, Hunnic archers fire outward. Anyone who comes too close dies. The sun sinks. Shadows stretch across the plain.
Night favors the patient. Let them bleed for daylight. We endure.
Night falls. And in the confusion, Theodoric's son, Thorismund, loses his way. He rides straight into the Hunnic camp, wounded, nearly killed, dragged out only by chance. Elsewhere, Aetius himself is cut off. Fearing disaster, he spends the night among the Goths. No one controls the field. At dawn, the dead are everywhere. So many bodies, the ground itself looks higher. Attila does not advance. He can't. Supplies are low. Arrows ring the camp. He waits. Even orders a funeral pyre built, saddles piled high, ready to burn rather than be taken.
If this ends, listen! It ends by my choosing. No chains, no trophies. Only fire.
The Goths search the field. They find Theodoric, where the bodies lie thickest. They lift him with songs. In full sight of the enemy, Thorismund demands revenge. He wants to finish it. But Aetius steps in. He convinces the young king to leave, to return to Tolosa, modern Toulouse, to secure his throne before rivals rise. Aetius understands the danger. If the Huns are destroyed completely, the Visigoths become Rome's next war. So Attila is allowed to withdraw. Alive. Still dangerous.
They spared me because they feared tomorrow more than today. That is wisdom, and that is weakness.
Attila rides east. The alliance dissolves. Each army turns home. The plain goes quiet. And history is left with its favorite argument. Was this a victory? Or just a pause before the next storm? Part 4. The Price of Victory. So, who won? Yeah, that's always the first question, isn't it? And honestly, the answer's a bit awkward. Nobody really walks away whole. On paper, sure, it looks like a victory. Attila is stopped, Gaul isn't conquered, and for the first time, the Hunnic advance actually breaks. For Flavius Aetius and his allies, that matters. Cities are still standing, the roads still work. Roman authority survives, at least for another year. But here's the thing. This is the kind of victory that hurts just to look at.
Stopping an enemy is not the same as breaking him, no. They held the door, yes, but the house behind it was already burning. That kind of victory only delays the question of who bleeds next.
And the Visigoths? They pay first. Their king, Theodoric I, is dead on the field, not in some clean, heroic duel, not with a story that's easy to retell. Trampled, lost in dust and confusion. The people who helped save Gaul go home carrying a body, and suddenly they're asking a really dangerous question. Okay, what happens now? Aetius sees the problem immediately, because if Attila is completely destroyed, the Visigoths become the strongest power in the West, strong enough to ignore Rome, strong enough to replace it. So Aetius makes a call that looks strange if you don't know the stakes. He lets Attila go.
He chose balance over applause. Good. A clever general fears tomorrow's allies more than today's enemy. Rome survives this field because it fears its friends.
Attila withdraws, alive, and for the first time, changed. This isn't the kind of defeat that destroys a man. It's worse than that. It cracks the myth. His whole coalition followed him because he never failed. Now they've seen him stopped. And once that happens, momentum, that invisible fuel, starts leaking away. And the cost? It's everywhere. Ancient writers throw around wild numbers, hundreds of thousands dead. That's exaggeration. Most modern historians land somewhere around 10 to 20,000 killed. And honestly, that's still catastrophic. These aren't farmers pulled off fields. They're veterans, nobles, men trained since childhood to fight. A whole generation of experience gone in a single afternoon. That's the kind of loss an era never really recovers from.
Numbers are noise. Listen. What matters is who does not return. When veterans die, wars last longer and end worse.
And the consequences don't wait long. 2 years later, in 453, Attila dies. Not in battle, in his bed. And almost overnight, his empire collapses. No institutions, no laws, just fear holding everything together. Once the fear is gone, the whole structure falls apart. The Gepids rise, the Ostrogoths break free. That whole dream, or nightmare, of a Hunnic Europe dies with one man. In the West, something else becomes painfully obvious. Rome isn't the center of military power anymore. The Germanic kingdoms are. The Visigoths, the Franks, the Burgundians. They fight, they bleed, they decide outcomes. Rome now coordinates, negotiates, survives, for the moment, by managing people instead of commanding them.
Once you carry the shield for an empire, you start asking why it still gives orders. That question never fades. It grows.
The Franks especially learned something important here. They mattered. They helped decide the fate of Gaul. From this point on, their rise is basically inevitable. Within a few centuries, their descendants will rule much of Western Europe. What starts here eventually becomes France, and Rome's last great defender never sees how it ends. In 454, Flavius Aetius is murdered. Not by barbarians, by his own emperor, Valentinian III. Jealous, afraid, convinced the man who saved the empire has become too powerful. With Aetius gone, no one's left who understands how to balance this new world. Within 20 years, the Western Roman Empire collapses.
That is Rome's true ending. Yes, not conquest. Fear of its own protectors. Empires fall inward long before they fall apart.
So that's the real legacy of the Catalaunian Plains. This battle doesn't save Rome. It decides what comes after it. If Attila had won, Europe might have turned into something completely different. A tributary world, cities paying just to exist, memory erased instead of preserved. Instead, what emerges is messy but durable. Roman law mixed with Germanic custom, Christian belief carried by warrior elites. A continent of rival kingdoms, not provinces, competitive, violent, creative. The Europe we recognize.
They call this survival. I call it transformation by blood. Once it begins, it never truly stops.
The Catalaunian Plains don't end an age. They filter one, deciding who moves forward and who fades into memory. Part 5. Echoes from the Past. Here's the strange thing. When the fighting ends, the battle doesn't. It hangs around. In stories, in rumors, in things people swear they heard or saw long after the armies packed up and left. And honestly, that's usually how you know a battle really mattered. Some ancient writers take it even further. They say the violence was so intense it tore a hole between worlds. According to the philosopher Damascius, the spirits of the fallen refused to rest. For 3 days and 3 nights, ghostly warriors were said to fight in the air above the field. Shadows fighting shadows. Steel without bodies. Rage without breath. Is it literal? Probably not. But the story spread across medieval Europe because, well, it felt right.
Men who survive slaughter need to believe something is still fighting. Yes, if the dead rise again, then the blood meant something. Belief keeps warriors standing long after strength is gone.
Other stories are darker and uncomfortably close to fact. After the battle, surrounded and wounded, Attila prepares for the worst. He orders a massive funeral pyre built, not from wood, but from horse saddles. Layer after layer, leather, wood, iron. The story goes that if the enemy breaks in, Attila plans to throw himself into the flames. No chains, no captivity. No Roman alive able to say they captured the scourge of God.
A king decides how his story ends. Listen, not his enemies, not chance. If I fall, it is by my choice, and that choice stands.
There's a quieter irony buried in all of this. Attila and Aetius weren't strangers. They weren't even enemies, at first. As a young man, Flavius Aetius lived among the Huns as a hostage. He learned their customs, their leaders, their language of power. Years later, he even used Hunnic warriors to settle Roman political feuds. So the Catalaunian Plains aren't just a clash of civilizations, they're a falling out between men who once trusted each other.
The worst wars are never with strangers. No. They are with men who know exactly where to strike. Knowledge cuts deeper than steel.
When we go looking for physical proof of the battle, certainty fades again. In 1842, near the village of Point-les-Vallées, a laborer uncovers a grave. Inside, a skeleton, a gold-hilted sword, jewelry set with deep red garnets. For decades, people are convinced they found the tomb of Theodoric I himself. Modern archaeology tells a different story. Not a king, but probably a high-ranking Germanic warrior. Important, just not the legend people hoped for. Most of what we think we know about the battle comes from one main voice, Jordanes. He's writing a century later, and he's writing as a Goth. His work is invaluable and deeply biased. Visigoths loom large. Romans fade into the background. Aetius, the man holding everything together, sometimes feels like a supporting character in his own story. History, once again, depends on who's holding the pen.
Victors remember themselves first. Everyone else waits for quieter historians to speak. Sometimes they never do.
There's another clue archaeologists haven't found. No massive burial pits. No endless fields of bones, despite ancient claims of hundreds of thousands dead. So what does that mean? Either the battle was smaller than legend insists, or the dead were cremated, scavenged, or scattered across a wide landscape. The field didn't preserve the truth neatly. It let it dissolve. And if you visit the region today, that silence is still there. Near Châlons-en-Champagne and around Troyes, the land rolls gently. Fields, vineyards, quiet roads. No towering statues, no grand monuments, just earth that once shook. There's even a place locals still call the Camp of Attila, near La Chèpe, a large circular earthwork. Legend says it was Attila's camp. Archaeology says it's older, a Gallic fortification built centuries before the Huns arrived. But the name stuck, because memory cares less about accuracy than meaning.
When a name survives longer than truth, yes, it means fear carved deeper marks than stone ever could.
Over time, the battle slips out of history and into culture. Books, screens, games. The 2001 miniseries Attila, starring Gerard Butler, turns the battle into a dramatic finale. Not always accurate, but emotionally sharp. Games like Total War Attila and Age of Empires II The Conquerors let players face the same problem Aetius faced. How do you command an army that doesn't really belong to you? But strip away the legends, the games, the ghosts, and one truth remains. The Catalaunian Plains refuse to be forgotten because they sit at a crossroads, between empire and kingdom, between unity and fragmentation, between memory and myth. Part 6. What if? History tells us what did happen. But some battlefields don't let go that easily. The Catalaunian Plains keep whispering a darker question. What if the line had broken? What if, just once, Attila had shattered the Roman Visigothic front and ridden west with nothing left to stop him? Gaul wouldn't have endured. And I don't mean changed. I mean erased. Cities that later anchor medieval Europe, Lutetia, Aurelianum, Budigala, places we now call Paris, Orléans, Bordeaux, they don't grow into capitals. They burn, not because of policy, not because of strategy, but as examples, smoking warnings on the road west.
When the first city falls, the rest understand. Yes, you do not destroy them all. You destroy enough. Fear finishes the lesson faster than fire ever could.
And the lesson wouldn't be Roman. A victorious Hunnic world doesn't build feudal kingdoms. It doesn't settle. It extracts. Instead of Franks, Visigoths, and Burgundians ruling land, Western Europe becomes a tributary zone. Grain moves east. Gold follows. Hostages seal obedience. Power doesn't sit in palaces. It moves. The capital is wherever the riders stop for the night. This isn't the Middle Ages we recognize. No manners, no slow stitching together of law and land. A steppe logic replaces a Roman one. Control the routes, control the seasons. Punish resistance quickly, then move on. Order without permanence.
People mistake rule for presence. Sometimes rule is absence. Fear fills the space where law once stood.
The deepest loss wouldn't arrive with flames. It would come quietly. Monasteries in Gaul, the places copying books, preserving Roman law, teaching Latin, were fragile. They survived because later rulers wanted Roman knowledge. Attila doesn't. A Hunnic victory risks something harsher than a dark age. A clean break. Not learning fading, but learning snapping. Classical texts vanish faster. Roman law fragments beyond repair. The bridge between ancient and medieval Europe collapses. Religion doesn't escape either. In 451, Christianity is the glue holding Roman society together. But it survives because kings adopt it, protect it, fund it, use it. A Hunnic West offers no such shelter.
Gods survive when someone pays for them. Listen. When no one does, they fade, like walls without builders.
The Bishop of Rome, the future Pope, remains isolated. No Catholic Frankish kings rise to protect him. No alliance of throne and altar forms. Christianity might survive, but is one belief among many. Germanic paganism lingers longer. Steppe traditions press west. Europe's moral and legal foundations tilt away from the Christian Roman world we know. And then there's the great absence, the Franks. In 451, they're still minor players. If they're crushed, scattered, or absorbed, history loses its hinge. No Merovingians, no Carolingians, no Charlemagne, no Holy Roman Empire, no clear ancestor of France or Germany. The map we recognize never forms.
Empires are remembered for who they stop. Yes. Kingdoms are remembered for who they allow to rise.
In that vacuum, Europe fills differently. Earlier waves from the east, Slavic peoples pushing farther west, Turkic languages echoing closer to the Atlantic. Borders we take for granted never appear. The continent redraws itself centuries ahead of schedule. And Rome? Rome doesn't just fall earlier, it stops mattering. Everything we still call Roman today, law, language, identity, survived because successors admired Rome. They wanted to be Roman. Attila doesn't. He wants to replace it.
When no one wants your name, your memory dies faster than your cities. Stone lasts. Meaning does not.
In that world, Latin might vanish completely. No French, no Spanish, no Italian. Just a prestigious, dead language, like Etruscan. Studied, maybe, but never spoken by nations. So the Catalaunian Plains matter not because they save Rome. They buy something rarer, time. Time for books to be copied. Time for laws to bend instead of break. Time for belief and power to fuse. Imperfectly, painfully. Time for Europe to become itself.
They did not defeat me. No. They delayed the future I would have made. And sometimes, delay is enough to change everything.
So, the Catalaunian Plains don't end the story. They loosen it. Empires keep breathing. Barely. Kings get braver. And in the space Rome once controlled with law, memory, and, honestly, some very impressive paperwork, new rulers start asking a simpler question. Not, how do we survive? But, who owns this now? Attila rides east, and within a few years, he's gone. But the fear he left behind? That sticks. It settles into broken borders, into rival kings, into ambitious men who've stopped asking Rome for permission. Because now they've learned something Rome never wanted them to learn. The world isn't protected. It's available.
I am Clovis. No purple robes, no marble halls, no ancestors carved into stone. Just a Frank with a sword, and enough men willing to follow me. Funny thing, Rome always talks about legitimacy. Out here, victory works just fine. I learned to fight before I learned to rule, and I learned something else early. Land does not belong to the man with the oldest law. It belongs to the man who can take it, and convince everyone else to stop arguing. Rome speaks in decrees. I speak in outcomes.
Up in northern Gaul, one Roman commander still believes the old world can be held together. Syagrius. No emperor above him, no empire behind him, just Roman order, standing alone, insisting it still matters. And across the river, a young Frankish warlord is watching, not angrily, curiously, like someone eyeing an abandoned house with the door still unlocked.
They call him the last Roman. That is generous. Titles are comforting. They make defeat feel organized. If Rome still has strength, it will show it against me. And if it does not, well, then we can finally stop pretending.
Do you want to know how a single broken vase sparked a blood feud that wiped out the last Roman kingdom in Gaul and accidentally created the first king of France? Then listen to Battles That Shaped Europe. Next time, the Battle of Soissons, 486 CE.